The Story of George Washington. From Frontier Boy to Founding Father. Chapter 1. A Humble Beginning. In the early 18th century, in the quiet countryside of Westmoreland County, a boy was born who would one day change the course of history. His name was George Washington. Born on February 22nd, 1732, into a modest farming family, young George did not grow up in luxury. His father, Augustine Washington, was a planter, and his mother, Mary Ball Washington, was a strong-willed woman who shaped George's character with discipline and resilience. Unlike many of the founding fathers, George did not receive a formal higher education. He never attended college. Instead, he learned through experience, surveying land, working outdoors, and developing a deep understanding of nature and leadership. But fate had other plans for this quiet boy. Chapter 2. The Young Surveyor. At just 16 years old, George Washington began working as a land surveyor in the vast wilderness of Virginia colony. This job was not easy. He faced harsh weather, dangerous terrain, and the constant threat of wild animals and conflict. But these early experiences toughened him. They taught him survival, patience, and leadership. Little did he know, these same skills would one day help him lead an army. Chapter 3. Into War. The French and Indian War. In his early 20s, Washington joined the military and soon found himself in the middle of the French and Indian War. This war was part of a larger global struggle between Britain and France. Washington's first mission? A dangerous diplomatic journey through the wilderness to warn the French to leave British territory. They refused. Soon after, fighting broke out, and Washington got his first taste of battle. Although he made mistakes early on, including a surrender at Fort Necessity, he gained valuable experience. He learned the brutal realities of war, strategy, and command. Most importantly, he earned a reputation.
Chapter 4. Mount Vernon and a New Life. After the war, Washington returned home and settled at his estate, Mount Vernon. He married Martha Custis, a wealthy widow, and together they built a life of relative comfort. Washington became a respected landowner and a leader in his community. But beneath the surface, tensions were growing between the American colonies and Great Britain. And once again, Washington would be called to serve. Chapter 5. The Road to Revolution. By the 1770s, the American colonies were angry. British taxes, lack of representation, and strict control sparked unrest. Events like the Boston Tea Party showed that rebellion was brewing. In 1775, war broke out. The colonies needed a leader. They chose George Washington. Chapter 6. Commander of the Continental Army. Washington was appointed Commander of the Continental Army by the Second Continental Congress. But this army was not strong. It was poorly trained, poorly equipped, and lacked discipline. Many soldiers had no shoes, little food, and no proper weapons. Yet Washington believed in them. He led with courage, patience, and determination. Chapter 7. The Dark Winter at Valley Forge. One of the most difficult times came during the winter of 1777 to 1778 at Valley Forge. The conditions were terrible. Cold, hunger, disease. Many soldiers died. But Washington stayed with his men. He did not abandon them. He inspired them. With the help of Baron von Steuben, the army was trained into a disciplined fighting force. This moment transformed the army and the war. Chapter 8. Turning the Tide. In 1776, Washington made a bold move. On Christmas night, he crossed the icy Delaware River and launched a surprise attack on Hessian forces in Trenton. It was a huge victory. This daring move boosted morale, and proved that the Continental Army could win. Chapter 9. Victory at Yorktown. After years of struggle, the final major battle came in 1781 at Battle of Yorktown. With help from French forces, Washington surrounded the British Army led by General Cornwallis. The British surrendered. The war was over. America was free. Chapter 10. The Man Who Refused Power. After the war, many expected Washington to become king, but he did something extraordinary. He stepped down. He returned to Mount Vernon instead of holding on to power. This act shocked the world. It showed that true leadership is about service, not control. Chapter 11. The First President. In 1789, Washington was elected as the first president of the newly formed United States. He served 2 terms. During his presidency, he set many precedents: peaceful transfer of power, neutral foreign policy, strong federal government. He helped shape the foundation of a nation. Chapter 12. Challenges and Leadership. Washington faced many challenges: political divisions, economic struggles, foreign threats. Yet he remained steady. He believed in unity and warned against political parties dividing the nation. Chapter 13. The Farewell Address. Before leaving office, Washington gave his famous farewell address. He warned the nation about political factions, foreign alliances, loss of unity. His words are still remembered today. Chapter 14. Final Years and Legacy. After retiring, Washington returned once again to Mount Vernon. He lived quietly until his death on December 14, 1799. But his legacy lived on. He became known as the father of his country, a symbol of integrity, a model of leadership. Final thoughts. Why George Washington matters. George Washington was not perfect, but he was disciplined, courageous, and selfless. He could have been a king. Instead, he chose to be a servant of the people, and that choice changed the world. At last. From a young boy in the wilderness to the leader of a revolution, from a general to a president, George Washington's life is a story of courage, sacrifice, and honor. And even today, his legacy reminds us, true power lies not in ruling others, but in serving them.